Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Sports Scoop. Today, I'm going to be ranking my top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL currently. And in this barren offseason, I was thinking, hey, what kind of video can I do? And I was thinking, why not do a positional ranking starting off from the most important position, quarterback? So before we get into the video, I just want to let you know that if you enjoy this type of content, make sure to like and subscribe. Comment down below what you want to see in the next videos. We read all the comments and we listen to you guys. So I just want to say that before the end of the video, and that with out of the way, let's get into it. So before we get into it, I just want to let you know that I will not be including Deshaun Watson, Texans quarterback, on this list because of the factor that his future is so uncertain at the moment, and it's really too difficult to speculate on these kind of issues. So for that reason, I am leaving him off of this list. If it is more clear what if he will be playing or not, maybe he will be included, but for now, he will not be on this list. So at number 10, I'm going for, I don't know, maybe someone could consider a bit of a curveball, but I'm going Matthew Stafford. And I know by Matthew Stafford's standards, at least he's had maybe of a down season. He had 10 interceptions and had only a 96.3 passer rating. But he still had a very good season, 4,804 yards, 26 touchdowns, 64% completion percentage. He still had, in my opinion, a very decent year. The problem is he just never really had a good team around him. And maybe with a change of scenery in LA, where he'll definitely have the best team he's ever had around him, most well-rounded at least, I think maybe this is the year where maybe he can leapfrog and really show what kind of quarterback, how good of a quarterback he really is after being held back for so long in Detroit. So I feel like obviously a lot of people don't have him as a top 10 quarterback now because of, again, his failings in Detroit, which really weren't his failings, more the team around him's failings. But I think he still deserves that top 10 list. I feel like I think he'll pay off this year, putting him in a top 10 position, considering the fact of how good of a quarterback he really can be, especially with such a very innovative coach in Sean McVay, good weapons like Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp, and a good running game, a good defense. I mean, that can do wonders for a quarterback. And for that reason, and given his overall talent, I have Matthew Stafford at number 10. I'm going with Kyler Murray from Arizona. And the thing with Kyler Murray, I have him in my top 10 as well, when a lot of people don't. But I think with Kyler Murray, the thing is that he had a very, very decent season before he had injured his shoulder, as we saw in Seattle towards the end of the season. Then he didn't really look the same even when he kept on playing. So with Kyler Murray, I feel like, especially with the new weapons that are getting him, with obviously they brought in a few older free agents in JJ Watt and AJ Green, they still got a they've still improved that team definitely 100%. And I think this is Arizona's way of saying, hey, we think we can compete now. We think we can go and win the toughest division in the NFL, the NFC West. And we're going to be putting all our eggs in the Kyler Murray basket. And I think it's warranted considering how good of a season he had before he had the shoulder injury. So I think obviously the iconic play of the season was the Hail Murray, was putting up very respectable stats on the air and on the ground before the season came to an end. So I think he definitely deserves to be a nod for top 10 and could even raise into that top 5 discussion as the season goes on later and later. So Murray at 9 for now. Going on to our number 8, I have Baker Mayfield. And if you told me at the start of last year that Baker Mayfield would even be maybe even a potential fringe top 5 quarterback contender, I would have said you're crazy. But here we are. I mean, Baker Mayfield, even his first half of the season was average at best. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. But this second half of the season, he played like a top 5 quarterback. Accuracy was on point, timing was on point, was able to read defenses, even had a bit of mobility when he needs to, and his arm strength wasn't bad as well. He played like a top 5 quarterback. He was clutch, he was accurate, he could throw it mid-range when he needed to, he could throw it deep when he needed to. He trusted his weapons, he relied on the ground game, and I think the Browns now have probably a lot of their doubts that they had at the beginning of the season, like, is Baker the guy to lead us to the playoffs finally? I think they might have been answered. Who knows? Maybe he can lead them to a Super Bowl in a while, but we're not having that conversation right now. But I think given his play, especially during the second half of the season and in the playoffs, he does deserve that top 10 quarterback nod. And similar to Kyler Murray, he's the type of guy that I can see really raising in the rankings, considering how good of a player he really can be and was during the later half of the season. I mean, his stats don't seem incredible. Only 3,563 yards, 26 touchdowns to 8 picks, but they don't really tell the full story, especially considering how much more consistent he was over the second half of the year with Cleveland, when in the first half of the year again, and was maybe a bit more of the same of last year, where it was just inconsistent. Would you see a good Baker Mayfield, a bad Baker Mayfield? He really picked it up during the second half of the year and proved to not only be a good quarterback in the regular season, but a very, very good playoff quarterback. So for that reason, he is 8th on this list. Now going on to number 7, another AFC North quarterback, Lamar Jackson from the Ravens. Lamar Jackson, I feel like he's another one of those guys similar to the previous two who could really rise up the rankings. But I think the reason why I don't have him here is because I know this is a very stereotypical thing that everyone says about it, but it has to be said. Lamar hasn't proven yet that he can really beat a good team with his arm in the playoffs. He hasn't been able to do that yet. Obviously, that Tennessee game he was able to win, but that was a below average defense, and he uses his legs a lot of the game. And I don't doubt that he can that he can use his arm as an arsenal. He's a smart quarterback. He doesn't have a bad arm either, and I think he really can develop that area of his game. But for now, it hasn't been developed, and until it does, the Ravens, in my opinion, cannot win a Super Bowl. So if he develops it, and I think it's more when than if, in my opinion, because I'm really high on Jackson, but I still feel like at the moment, because of that he hasn't developed it yet well enough, he doesn't deserve a higher spot than 7 on this list. Now going on to number 6, coming off a major injury, Dak Prescott from the Dallas Cowboys. So Dak Prescott was having probably the best season of his career, at least the best start to his career, before he had that obviously gruesome ankle injury. He had 1,856 yards, 9 touchdowns, 4 interceptions in about 4.5 games. He was playing absolutely out of his mind for the Cowboys, and he was, I think, if he doesn't get injured, Dallas cruises to that NFC East title, especially with all the talent they had on offense. Obviously, he also got paid a huge contract, which is very important to the Cowboys' future. And I feel like Dak Prescott really hasn't gotten the recognition he deserves. I'm not saying like he belongs in the same discussion as other quarterbacks that will be going ahead of him on this list, and rightly so. But I think a lot of people maybe think of Dak Prescott maybe as a later, like a fringe top 10 quarterback. But to me, you saw during earlier this season, he was a crucial member of that Cowboys offense. And without them, they just sputtered. And I think that was really what caused Dak Prescott to get such a huge contract during the offseason. I think if he recovers fully from that ankle injury, which I think he will, he's going to go back to being, I think, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL and will lead Dallas to an NFC East title. Now going on to the top 5, you have Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson, it was a tale of two halves for him in the season, kind of opposite to Baker Mayfield. He started off really, really hot. There were people saying, oh, he's going to be MVP this year. He's finally getting his MVP vote after so many years of being overlooked for that award, after being one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Really cooled off during the second half of the year, which was obviously disappointing for him and for the team, as they got knocked out in the first round of the playoffs to the Los Angeles Rams. But Russell Wilson, I think overall had a very, very good season, like a typical Russell Wilson type of season. 4,212 yards, 40 touchdowns, 13 picks, a 105.1 rating. But to be fair, again, when you looked at that season, it was he was on that first half of the season, even with that terrible Seahawks defense. He was absolutely carrying that defense. Him and DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, they were just on during the early part of the season, but they cooled off during the second half, and that defense kind of took the responsibility. And even going into that first round, you could kind of sense that Seattle was kind of in a bit of trouble unless Russell Wilson did pick it up, which he did not during the playoffs, which really drops him number 5, because he could potentially be a top 3 quarterback on this list. But even if he did struggle, he still is a top 5 quarterback. For me, he still is a top 5 quarterback. I mean, his durability, even for how much he runs outside of the pocket, is amazing. He's very well built, in my opinion, to withstand those types of injuries. Has a good arm. Again, like I said, mobile, smart quarterback, can be inside and outside the pocket and do things. Great deep ball, one of the most accurate deep ball passers in the NFL. And I still think he's reaching maybe towards the end of his prime, but he's still in his prime, and I still think he deserves a spot as a top 5 quarterback in the NFL at the moment. I have Tom Brady here. And I know people are going to say Tom Brady should be top 3, top 2, even top 1 for his Super Bowl performance. And obviously, it was amazing that at 43, still able to do still able to be a top 5 quarterback at the NFL level. That's unreal. But let's not get this confused. Before the playoffs, where he seemed like he wasn't really on anyone's top 3 list, not even top 5 list, but and so for that reason, I feel like even though he had a decent playoffs, not even that, I mean decent playoff games, but I think he doesn't deserve top 5 for top 3 for that, for just that, especially considering the weapons that he had around him, both on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. Again, still amazing quarterback. I mean, what he's doing at his age is unrivaled. But even with that, I still don't think he deserves a list on the top 3 or top 2 of the quarterback rankings for me. I think he's still, again, like I said, still amazing quarterback. But for me, there are just 3 other guys that I would put a bit above him, even with his spectacular year with 4,633 yards, 40 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. Now going on to our number 3 list, I have Josh Allen from the Buffalo Bills. And I think with Josh Allen, we always saw that maybe this could be the year that he blossoms into an MVP candidate, and this was the year. He had an absolutely fantastic year. 4,544 yards, 37 touchdowns, 10 interceptions only, 107.2 pass rating, 69.2% of completion percentage, which is incredible. This was the year where we saw the renaissance of Josh Allen. Not renaissance, but like the emergence of Josh Allen as a franchise quarterback, which was the reason why he was drafted so high by Buffalo. This is what they were expecting, and this is what they got. We saw someone who could be an amazing pocket passer, even with his amazing mobility. We saw someone who could run when they needed him to. He was very accurate in the short-term and intermediate game, which was a concern of his game coming out of college, even in his first or second year of the NFL, but still didn't lose that gunslinging touch that he had of his. And he was the main reason why Buffalo was, some people thought they could even topple the Chiefs and make it to the Super Bowl this year. And with that team basically retaining all of their starters, there's no doubt they're going to be back next year as long as Josh Allen stays healthy. And I doubt, especially with the same offensive coordinator, Brian Dable, who let's be honest, Buffalo are so happy to have him back for another season with Josh Allen. I mean, they should be probably back where they are now, if not even better, considering Josh Allen will have another year to grow. I think the fact that he is top 3 in the NFL and still has room to grow is very, very scary and impressive at the same time. And I think given the season he had, I feel like it's unfair to put him anywhere other than top 3 on this list. On to number 2, it was a really tough call between number 1 and number 2, but I had Aaron Rodgers from the Green Bay Packers. And the reason why I have Aaron Rodgers here is just because of the fact that while he did have an amazing regular season, and his postseason wasn't too bad as well, I feel like he did have a lot of help. And I know a lot of people will say Aaron Rodgers didn't have help. What are you talking about? He only had Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones. Yes, but he also had one of the best offensive minds of the game, one of the best offensive lines of the game, and he also had other weapons on the offense, including Alan Lazard, MVS, who came up clutch. They had Jamal Williams and even A.J. Dillon as he emerged late into the season. And the defense just kept on getting better and better until the NFC Championship game where the infamous Kevin King play. But I still think Aaron Rodgers had one of the best arsenals around him in the NFL and performed amazingly, don't get me wrong. But I just feel like the quarterback at him has just a bit higher of an upside. And if it was a playoff game between these two quarterbacks, I would just barely take the other quarterback, who I think you all know who it is, ahead of him. And that's not to demean Rodgers. Statistically, he had the best year of all the quarterbacks in the NFL. Like, let's look at them right now. He had 70.7% completion percentage, 4,299 yards, 48 touchdowns, only 5 picks, and 121.5 rating in the NFL. That is extremely impressive. And when you read those stats out, it's just so hard to say one guy is better than him. But I just feel like overall, I'm not going based on a seasonal basis. If it was just based on the 2020 NFL season, I would have Rodgers ahead. But based on overall quarterback talent and what won on my team, I just have this guy ahead. As you guessed, that quarterback is Patrick Mahomes, who had a very underwhelming Super Bowl performance. But when you look at it more deeply, I think it's apparent maybe why he had that poor performance. I mean, obviously Patrick Mahomes also has a very, very good supporting cast, but that went missing during the Super Bowl. His receivers did nothing. They couldn't catch. His offensive line couldn't block. The defense couldn't get off the field because Brady and that offense couldn't be stopped in the trenches and on the ground and on the air, in the air. So I think it was almost Patrick Mahomes against the entire Bucs team, which is never a good thing in football, which is a team sport. And when you look at his year, he had an amazing year himself. He had 66.3% completion percentage, 4,740 yards, 38 touchdowns, 6 picks, 108.2 rating. Obviously not as good as Rodgers, but still very impressive nonetheless. Had a very good playoff games as well when he was actually hampered in both those games against Browns and Bills, both very, very good teams, where Mahomes was knocked out in the Browns game where he was playing well before then, and the Bills game playing on turf toe and had a minor concussion going into it, although that wasn't affecting him, and still managed to play probably one of the best games of his season. So I think based on the intelligence, clutch gene, arm talent, arm accuracy, mobility, throw on the run, based on all that, I think he's just a complete package right now. And for that reason, he's number one in the quarterback rankings. But that is it for the video. Again, if you enjoy, make sure to like and subscribe. We really appreciate all the help. Comment down below what you thought of the video. What would your top 10 quarterbacks be? Do you disagree with this list? You probably do. What do you disagree with it? Why do you disagree with it? Tell us all. Again, I will respond. I promise you. Thank you so much for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.